What is it about the lives of child stars that captivates our imaginations so much? Perhaps it's the novelty of watching someone grow up right before our eyes, in the brutal arena that's the limelight. Or maybe it's the fact that a lot of us were also kids when we first started watching them. We identified with them more than the adult actors because they looked and talked like we did. But then there's the fact that so many kids end up crumbling under the pressure of fame and go on to lead turbulent lives. We don't want them to fail, but it's a lot like a car crash. We can't seem to look away. Regardless, child stars are incredibly fascinating. So let's take a closer look at some from one of the most iconic decades of the last century, the 60s. In this video, we're going to be showing you where some of the biggest child stars of the 60s ended up once they reached adulthood. Hayley Mills. A lot of Hollywood stars struggle for quite some time to make it to the A-list, but this wasn't the case for 60s teen icon Hayley Mills. Her first major acting credit at age 13 was in the British crime drama Tiger Bay. She won the BAFTA for Most Promising Newcomer for that role, and just like that, a star was born. She followed that up by winning the last ever Juvenile Academy Award for her performance in Pollyanna. She next portrayed a set of identical twin sisters in the original film adaptation of The Parent Trap. Even though she was never quite able to reach the same kind of prestige as she did in her childhood years, she still had a fairly successful acting career in theater and on TV. You might recall she played Miss Bliss on Good Morning Miss Bliss, the show that inspired Saved by the Bell. More recently, Mills starred in the British miniseries Pitching In. It's also worth mentioning Mills is a breast cancer survivor and is currently dating actor and writer Fergus Bamji, who's 20 years her junior. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. And stick around to see who we think is the most successful former child star. MARC COPAGE. COPAGE rose to fame after the sitcom Julia debuted in 1968. Julia was trailblazing in that it was the first weekly TV series to depict a black woman as a professional, rather than a stereotypical and demeaning housekeeper role. COPAGE won over the heart of America, playing Julia's adorable son, Corey. COPAGE became a lot more famous than he probably ever expected to. At one point, even Michael Jackson wanted his autograph. On another memorable occasion, he almost fell off the stage at the NAACP Image Awards while trying to dodge a kiss from Diana Ross. After his first brush with fame, COPAGE decided that maybe acting wasn't really right for him, so he went back to school to become a jazz musician. He does occasionally dabble in acting still, and has recently appeared in 2018's The Meg. These days, he's pretty devoted to his love of jazz music and works as a leasing agent and assistant manager of an apartment building. While that life might not seem so glamorous to some, he's perfectly content with his low-key life out of the spotlight. ERIN Murphy. The world fell head over heels for ERIN Murphy when she played the eldest child in the hit sitcom Bewitched. Murphy portrayed Tabitha, a young girl who inherited her mother's magical powers and routinely contributed to the show's shenanigans with a simple twitch of her nose. After Bewitched went off the air in 1972, Murphy guest starred on Lassie and appeared in over 100 TV ads, but she never again quite found the same level of fame as on Bewitched. Even though she still occasionally makes an appearance in reality shows like Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling, Murphy, for the most part, has switched her focus to the lucrative world of business. She's co-owner of Slim Chillers, a low-carb alcoholic popsicle company that's been serving up tasty adult treats since 2014. She also runs ERIN Murphy Knits, which makes environmentally friendly clothing items out of alpaca hair. In 2018, she bought a $2.8 million home in Malibu. Jay North. As the title character in Dennis the Menace, North became one of the most influential child stars of the 60s. After Dennis was canceled, North struggled to find work as an actor. Much like a lot of other former child stars, he found himself typecast, and the public wasn't about to forget about the time he spent in that iconic role. North did eventually get the chance to do some voiceover work in Pebbles and Bam Bam Show before making an appearance in the 1974 teen film The Teacher. But after these projects, he found himself disillusioned with Hollywood and quit acting entirely. Since the mid-80s, his only credits have been in an episode of The Simpsons and in Dickie Roberts' former child star. After his dear friend and fellow child star Rusty Hamer took his own life, North revealed that he too had been the victim of abuse while on the set of Dennis the Menace. He now takes an active role in the organization A Minor Consideration, which helps child stars receive counseling when dealing with the same pressures and problems he did when he was in their shoes. As the pigtailed yet spooky Wednesday Addams on The Addams Family, Loring became one of the most famous kids in the country. But as we all know, fame rarely leads to lasting happiness. By the time she was just 16, Loring was already a divorced single mom whose own mother had just died from alcoholism. She couldn't find work no matter how hard she tried, but eventually she was able to stage a comeback, albeit briefly, in the early 80s, appearing for 3 seasons on the soap opera As the World Turns. But after that gig dried up, so did her chances of finding continued success in Hollywood. In the late 80s, Loring married porn star Jerry Butler. Their relationship was quite problematic, and Loring eventually found herself completely strung out on heroin. Not wanting to end up like her mother, she got clean and now works in PR for a popular chain of hotels. She also occasionally makes an appearance at pop culture conventions to sign autographs and take pictures with fans. Angela Cartwright. Angela skyrocketed to fame in the late 50s while starring on The Danny Thomas Show. In the 60s, she became a full-fledged child star, portraying Penny Robinson in Lost in Space. She also played Von Trapp's straight-laced middle child in The Sound of Music. After experiencing so much success as a child, Cartwright still continued to act periodically. For example, she appeared in the 1970s film Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, and most recently her voice was featured in the animated films The Bolt Who Screwed Christmas and Elf Sparkle and The Red Dress. Cartwright's primary passion these days is photography. She had her own studio and gallery in Los Angeles if you ever want to check out her work. And she's been blissfully married for over 4 decades, so it looks like her life turned out pretty great. Butch Patrick. Patrick is best known for his role as Little Eddie Munster, the werewolf boy on the Munsters. He landed that role in part due to his tiny stature when compared to his towering TV dad Herman Munster. Patrick went on to become one of the biggest child stars of the 60s. After the Munsters came to an end, he continued finding success in acting roles. He appeared in the film The Phantom Tollbooth and the eccentric kid series Lidsville. At 19, however, he said goodbye to Hollywood and acting to focus on his other passions, driving fast cars and surfing. He also joined a rock band in the mid-80s called Eddie and the Monsters, which ended up becoming the first unsigned band to have their music video featured on MTV in 1983. Patrick eventually returned to acting, but has only appeared in low-budget and largely forgettable films, like Bite School and Zombie Dream. He's also proudly 10 years sober after having fallen into the trap of alcoholism and drug abuse that so many other child stars find themselves in. Johnny Crawford. Most people remember Crawford as the son of Lucas McCain on the classic Western series The Rifleman. At 13, Crawford was nominated for an Emmy for his strong performance on that program. After The Rifleman came to a close in 1963, the young actor continued to appear in a handful of TV shows in guest roles. These days, he fronts the Johnny Crawford Dance Orchestra, an oldies throwback band based in Southern California. Ron Howard. Most people remember Howard as Little Opie on The Andy Griffith Show, and then there was his tenure as Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. Millennials probably remember his role as director for critically acclaimed films like Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Howard's career has never showed any signs of slowing down. Most recently, he's directed films like 2018's Solo, A Star Wars Story, and 2020's Hillbilly Elegy, which he also produced. You might recognize him as the narrator on the cult hit sitcom Arrested Development. With a net worth estimated around $200 million, we can say with a great deal of confidence that Ron Howard is absolutely the most successful former child star. In his case, the trick to making his life in Hollywood work after reaching adulthood was by hopping behind the camera instead of in front of it. Now it's time to hear from you. In the comments section below, let us know which former child star was your favorite as a kid. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.